Vape Politics Radio, covering calls to action all around the country, breaking industry news, all things FDA, event coverage, and answering your questions here at home and abroad. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at facebook.vapepolitics.com and go over and give our Twitter a follow at twitter.vapepolitics.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vape Politics Radio, Episode 5. This week, we will be discussing the Moffit Cancer Center receiving a $3.6 million grant to study e-cigarettes, and we will also hear a discussion on Vape Free Youth and the new FDA information from this week's Smoke Free Radio with Dimitri the Vaping Greek, his co-host Meg, and myself. So, let's get started. Moffit Cancer Center received a $3.6 million grant from the National Institutes of Health to study the use of electronic cigarettes, or e-cigarettes, over the next 5 years. This is what they said. Rather than burning tobacco like traditional cigarettes, e-cigarettes vaporize a liquid that usually contains nicotine, and users inhale the vapor like they would inhale a normal cigarette. The use of e-cigarettes has risen dramatically since their introduction a decade ago. Good grief, has it really been that long? Yeah, I guess 2005 was when the first e-cigarette really popped up. Although very little, now this is them. Let me preface this by saying that this is them, and I'm hoping that they change this bias, because if they're not looking at other research, this is going to be rough. But I will continue. Although very little is known about the safety of these new products, they are thought to be much less dangerous than conventional cigarettes. Most e-cigarette users report that they began using the product in an attempt to quit or cut down on smoking. This is the part. However, there has been little research to date on the effectiveness of e-cigarettes for quitting smoking. Facepalm. No. People come into this with a presupposition, which is, oh, well, there's no research. Well, then, what? How can you receive a $3.6 million grant to study e-cigarettes if you say there isn't research into e-cigarettes? How can you start a new research program without even looking into whether or not there is research? Because guess what, friends? There is. Not rant time. This is not a time to rant. The goal of the new Moffit grant is to learn how e-cigarettes are used over time and whether users are eventually successful at quitting smoking. During the first year of the study, Moffit researchers will be interviewing e-cigarette users to learn about their experiences and their perceptions of the pros and cons of e-cigarettes. The researchers want to interview current and former smokers who are also current or former e-cigarette users. According to the lead investigator on the project, Thomas Brandon, PhD, director of the Tobacco Research and Intervention Program at Moffit, he said, "Public health researchers are really playing catch-up with the explosion of e-cigarettes onto the marketplace," end quote. That's fair. That is fair. If you look at our industry, it's still a baby. It's still a baby scientifically. But earlier for them to say that there is little research to date on the effectiveness of e-cigarettes is, it's blind is what it is, because I don't want to use a bigger word. I will continue. During the final 4 years of the study, Moffit researchers plan to enroll 2,500 e-cigarette users throughout the United States and follow them for 24 months, because that's not creepy at all, by sending them surveys every 3 months. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. They're going to follow them by sending them surveys. I thought we were talking about some scientists literally walking around people blowing clouds, because that would be very awkward. And I quote, "Millions of smokers are using e-cigarettes to try to quit smoking, yet because there is a lack of data, we are not able to advise them whether that is an effective smoking cessation strategy. This study should provide some answers that will be very useful to smokers as they consider ways to quit," end quote, Brandon explained. Now, there's something about this quote that makes me go, millions of smokers are using e-cigarettes to try to quit smoking, yet because there is a lack of data, we are not able to advise them whether this is an effective smoking cessation strategy. Well, I have just a little thought for you. Look at the vaping community. Look at the open vapor market and just take one vape shop and look at the success rate of that vape shop and see how many people are staying off of cigarettes, and tell me that there is a lack of data, because if you did this, and this is what they're going to do. I'm not saying that they should have done this beforehand. I'm saying that this is what they're going to do. They will find that the success rate is very high, and I hope that if this study turns out to be the way that we hope it will be, we will see them advising people to start vaping when they want to quit smoking. Dimitri the Vaping Greek, who we're going to hear a little bit from very soon about the FDA and some Vape Free Youth stuff, said, and I quote, "Fantastic news, local vapors, please volunteer," end quote. Now, vapors seem to be in support of this, and we here at Vape Politics are very excited about the potential lives this study could save if it's done the right way without Big Pharma and Big Tobacco bias. Now, I completely believe that Big Pharma and Big Tobacco are going to push their little agendas into this study. Do I think they'll be successful? I don't know. That's going to be up to Moffit, but we will see an attempted influence from Big Pharma and Big Tobacco, and as they will see an attempted big influence from the vapor industry. We definitely want to influence this. We definitely want to give them very 100% accurate feedback. We don't want to be super biased like, oh, my cloud is so safe, I can blow it at Walmart and it's no big deal, man. No, shut up. We really need to focus here and be part of the solution. It's something that I talked about on Smoke Free Radio last night, which is we need to be part of the solution, not the problem. And this is a great opportunity for us to be part of the solution. We're going to move on to our next segment. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to go on Smoke Free Radio as the guest for this week's episode, and we discussed quite a few things, including the new FDA rule that came out, specifically Section 8 of that, which has to do with child appeal and marketing, and how that's going to tie back to the Vape Free Youth movement that we discussed a few episodes ago. And we'll get a solid recap on that and see what's going on there.
So, all right, let's get to some topics here, Noah and Meg. For obviously, the flaming topic this week is the FDA announcement. They proposed a rulemaking here, which is, Meg, I hate to be that guy.
Be that guy, D.
But I told you so, right? All the people that know me, that have had interaction with me over the last 6 to 8 months, I've said this to pretty much everybody that's involved in the industry, and I've mentioned it here on the podcast many times. I had a fear that the FDA is going to do something drastic to the labeling, bottling, and overall safety of e-liquid in bottles, right? And guess what? The FDA did just that. They put the announcement out today. I'm just going to read here off the website briefly. The FDA has evaluated data and science, including all the evidence submitted to the docket of the proposed deeming rule, related to the risks, especially to infants and children, from accidental exposure to nicotine, including exposure to liquid nicotine and nicotine-containing e-liquids, which are primarily used with electronic nicotine delivery systems. It is the recent increase in calls and visits to both poison and control centers and emergency rooms in the United States involving liquid nicotine poisonings and exposures has increased the public health concerns of these exposure risks as a result of FDA's evaluation. And these recent trends, FDA is considering whether, based on the acute toxicity of nicotine up to and including nicotine poisoning, it would be appropriate for the protection of the public health to warn the public about the dangers of nicotine exposure, especially due to inadvertent nicotine exposure in infants and children, and or require that some tobacco products be sold in child-resistant packaging. A request for comments and information. The FDA is seeking comments, data, research results, and other information related to the following questions. And then it lists a whole page. Actually, the PDF is 15 pages. I'll put the link inside the. Oh, there you go. You got it already. The link inside it puts everything in perspective. So, This is what my fear was months ago when I started doing a lot more research on a federal level and getting involved with the FDA and what they're trying to do. I saw the writing on the wall, in all these meetings that I went, seeing people from the FDA and the CTP citing exactly this huge issue, and that is the youth access and the youth orientation and even the poisonings, which I think is a big smokescreen. Again, no pun intended. I don't think that the youth issue is the problem here of them opening up and drinking the bottle, and I'll explain that in more detail. But does it make sense now, Meg, what I was trying to say all this time?
Yeah, it does.
This is a way...
Sorry, I'm just reading through some of it, too, because I'm still catching up.
That's fine. I'm glad to see you come prepared for your smoke-free appearance today.
Sorry.
But, Noah, when did I tell you about this? When's the first time that I told you about this?
I think we discussed it 4 months ago.
4 months ago, we had this discussion, and I said, I'm afraid that they're going to do something drastic, something that's going to thin down this industry, and I think this is it. I don't know how many of you have read that. Everybody's talking about the child packaging and the child resistance caps. But you haven't read the whole thing, and you should really read this, because this is going to really wake you up, all right? The questions. I am going to just touch on 2 questions here that I think are the most important ones. By the way, they're given only 60 days for people to reply, right? There's a lot of questions on here, but this is an opportunity for you to learn what the concerns that the FDA have and the potential actions they are contemplating It's just an opportunity for you to comment by submitting your responses to the docket, okay? 60 days is not a lot of time. Again, this is, I think, is planned by the FDA so they can get through this quickly and impose a rule that's going to thin out 90% of the industry. I truly believe it.
I completely agree with you.
Do you think that the responses within, the amount of responses that they get are going to make any difference to it at the end?
Yes, I do. I do believe that we have an opportunity to make a change here, and this is this really ties into the Vape Free Youth movement. This is exactly what we were trying to prevent. We were trying to open up that door with the FDA, all the group of manufacturers that got together to go to the FDA and say, listen, we're listening to your concerns. We want to address your concerns, and that was the goal of the first stated principles that were put on the Vape Free Youth website. Do you see it now, Meg? Do you see what we were trying to do with the Vape Free Youth? Do you see every fucking advocate that was criticizing the Vape Free Youth movement?
Yes.
Do you see what the issue here is? They're not going to wait for the deeming regulations. They're going to drop a rule that's going to eliminate 90% of the industry. A lot of that industry that donates money to these fucking advocacy groups. Damn, I'm getting all fired up again. My blood pressure.
You got your pills ready?
I've taken 3 already. Question 1. Should FDA require child-resistant packaging for liquid nicotine? If so, why? So, do you think that child resistance packaging makes a difference to potential risk for kids to access bottled e-liquid? Meg, what's your answer?
I'd like to say yes, but I know that it doesn't.
Noah?
The issue there with the child caps is that yes, on the standpoint that that's what they're supposed to do. Are they necessarily going to? That answer is kind of up to them.
No, but the common sense is that you do have a nicotine product. It should have some form of a child resistance cap.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's very hard to defend that. You can, I see posts on my Facebook, well, the bleach bottles don't have childproof caps. Well, guess what? The Center for Tobacco Products does not regulate bleach. Stop using that as an excuse. Why are we always trying to manipulate the system? Why are we always trying to find the shady ass way to get out of this?
They're always using apples and oranges arguments for almost everything that comes up.
What is the matter with that? I don't get it. I really don't get why people are trying to make that coloration. And trust me, if you say that to the FDA, hey, bleach does not have that, the FDA gets more mad because they don't regulate that product.
And if you talk to anybody here in the UK, child resistance caps has been the norm here for at least the last 3 years. So we don't really have that kind of problem over here, because when trading standards or whatever looks at e-liquid bottles here, 99% of them have a childproof cap on them.
Right. And that's something that was implemented there, since the beginning, I think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was since the beginning, since the first, ACETA, whatever, the BSI, whatever that was, came up with some standards. I think that the child resistance packaging was fine. But anyway, I'm not going to put too much weight on that. Again, part of the principles of the Vape Free Youth website clearly states that we do believe that should have child resistance packaging on these products. Okay? That is the common sense, and I think that's something that all the industry can, join together and show to the FDA, yes, we agree, and we can do this. It's not an issue. It's not hard to get childproof caps for your bottles. No. Okay? So, here we go on to number 8 in that PDF, and I want you to pull it up because this is the key. This is the key point that I want to make to everybody that listens to me, everybody that pays attention to me. I want you to please listen carefully to what number 8 says, because this is going to really open up your eyes to what I've been saying all this time and why I wanted Vape Free Youth to become successful and get a lot of people around this industry. Number 8, are there other factors FDA should consider to further prevent or discourage people, especially infants and children, from inadvertently consuming or being exposed to liquid nicotine? If so, please explain. And here comes the kicker, Meg. You ready? Examples of other factors may include attractiveness of the product of packaging. For example, appealing images, fragrance, and flavors. Resemblance of packaging to food and drink items. For example, candy and fruit. The color of the product. Resemblance to beverages such as juice. Resemblance of packaging of that of medications. For example, eye drops. Did anybody read this? Did anybody read number 8? Because everybody's putting their attention on the childproof caps in the packaging without paying attention to what the FDA is trying to do here. They have put out their large and they're getting ready to shove it right up the industry's Wake up. This is what this document is going to do. Did you read number 8? The question here, attractiveness to infants and children. This is an additional slant on the issue that if certain images are attractive to underage users, do they look like something young kids might think is for them? Me personally, Meg, I'm not surprised that these kind of questions are being asked. I mean, examples of cartoon labels with images, names of kinds of candy are easy to find. Do you disagree with that?
No, it's not. They are easy to find. They're everywhere.
But here's what bugs me now. Because of these cartoon characters and all these bad labelings, it raises a big question. Does it draw attention to the additional questions that are getting asked? So what about fruit flavors and colors? It's my opinion that we risk an overreaction of the FDA by including them in there. So here's our chance in this comment period, right, to submit comments as an industry saying, the cartoons, whatever, but colors, that has to be appealing to the adults too. We don't want to give them a misconception that this product is harmful just as traditional combustible tobacco. We have to draw that line in this next 60 days. If we don't do this as an industry, the FDA is going to draw that thick line that Mitch Zeller said. And trust me, 90% of the products, if not more, will be removed from the market. Thoughts? No, I see you're ready to talk.
It's just interesting to me that it's not only you that's been saying this for so long, it's everybody. There have been plenty of people saying the same thing, and no one seems to be listening. It wasn't until Vape Free Youth went live that people really started getting up in arms. Just think about it. A month and a half ago, no one was talking about, this label is misconstrued, or this label is bad for the industry. No one was talking about it until, well, of course you were, but no. I mean, the large majority of people weren't talking about it until we made it an issue.
Meg, you want to join?
Yeah, I've been talking about it for, at least since I was on POTV. Since I started my own website, it's something that I've always bitched about. I have an asshats page that's dedicated to companies that use like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and little tiny bunnies and whatever. Stop. I have a really big issue because I'm a mom, and I know from having a 6-year-old that doesn't know me as a smoker, only knows me as a vapor, when I would get a new e-liquid or even a new piece of kit, if it came in a brightly wrapped package, he was interested in it. But it was my responsibility to tell him, no, this isn't for you. This is something for mommy. Little boys don't play with this. And he would leave it alone. But there's other parents out there that aren't as responsible as I am. Yeah. And I do have a slight issue. I think there's a very thin line between what is attractive to children and what is attractive to adults. And if looking back when Space Jam had their cartoony label and they made the choice to switch it to a more elegant, professional looking label instead of this big cartoony, bubbly thing in your face, yeah, I thought that was a good move. And I think that's something that a lot of companies need to look at. They need to really consider whether or not their branding looks like something you would find in a coloring book.
Right. I agree with you. And there's obviously people just like the diacetyl issue that disagree. But I will tell you that today, the American Lung Association put out a picture. It is on Facebook with Cocoa Puffs, Captain Peanut Butter, Crunch, Trix, and it has a cereal in the back. And I'm just reading straight off the American Lung Association. These may sound like kids' cereals, but there are actual names of e-cigarette flavors being marketed at youth. House Committee on Appropriations includes a provision that would weaken U.S. Food and Drug Administration's authority to protect kids from tobacco products. Again, it is the appearance, it is the perception, it is these groups that are fighting us. And the bad thing is that the industry is doing nothing to help themselves on this particular issue. In fact, we're seeing more and more companies push the envelope, trying to compete in a space that obviously is trying to target the vapor. And I guess we're going to talk about that the 15th of July when we have that episode. But instead of the industry doing the right thing and trying to turn this image around and this perception around, we're seeing more and more blatant, just really pushing the edge on the appearance of these products.
I think we've forgotten what the goal was in the beginning with the industry, which was to get people off of cigarettes. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it would definitely.
Yeah,
you're definitely on spot there.
It seems like over the past year, as the sub-ohms and the cloud chasers got bigger and bigger, and there's nothing wrong with that, but as they got bigger and bigger, that focus started going down. And that's when I started seeing all the cartoon labels and all of the cereal names, and yes, they do look child appealing. It's ridiculous.
I'm really concerned with this release by the FDA, Meg. I'm really concerned because everybody, including Gregory Conley, which, I love Gregory. He put out a PR through the AVA addressing this issue. I will just read a little bit of excerpt from the PR release that Greg did. The FDA has jumped the gun by moving on this issue before the deeming regulation has been finalized, said Gregory Connolly, reflecting on the fact that the FDA had previously pledged to have the deeming regulations finalized in June 2015, only to issue this statement on July 1st. Connolly noted the timing indicates that this is more of a public relations strategy than it is the actions of a neutral regulator just collecting information. I totally agree, and I totally predicted it as well, didn't I? You know, I mean, I'm sorry. I know it sounds bad, but it's totally expected because the industry is so large. What do you think they're going to grasp on? They're going to grasp on trying to thin out the industry. This is the perfect time for the FDA to drop a rule that's not part of the deeming regulations, eliminate 95% of the industry, and then try to regulate the 5% that's left. And guess what? The 5% is probably just going to be big tobacco and maybe a few companies, if that.
Yeah, that's what it seems like they're trying to do, honestly. Because it's easier to regulate 5% than it is, because like you said, we are huge. It is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
It's huge here in the UK, but I can only imagine what it's like in the States.
Yeah. And at that point, after they take out that 95%, regulations are a breeze for them.
Yeah.
Because no one's left to fight.
Yeah.
No. And what's left to protect is going to be tobacco manufactured cigalikes and closed vapor products that are all crap anyways.
Well, you know, what I see here, even on Greg's PR, is that he's talking about the child resistance packaging. You know, I think nobody saw, he's talking about the labels a little bit, but I think he's trying to lean towards that the labels will mislead adult smokers on the relative risks of vaping versus tobacco smoking, which I get it. He doesn't want to make the labels where it shows that this product's so dangerous that the smoker might mislead it and say that, oh, vaping is just as bad as smoking, which I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I think, once again, even here with Gregory, I think he missed number 8 in this announcement from the FDA. Number 8 is the most important announcement that the FDA has done here. That clause where it says attractiveness of the product or packaging is so vague, right? It is so vague by the FDA that it can blanket a lot of the products that is out there. I think that the child-resistant packaging and all that, I think that's irrelevant to the FDA. We already have 14, 15 states that enact these child-proof laws that have been passed already, and I'm sure there's more coming next year in the next legislative session. How difficult it is for the FDA to say, okay, well, you need to have child-resistance packaging and you need to have a child-proof cap on your bottle. That's very, very easy. Why announce this and why put 15 pages of a PDF out there if you don't have something that you're planning to do? And exactly what I predicted is happening. This is the way that they're going to come after these labels that have the perception that they're marketing to youth. So I want to touch a little bit on the Vape Free Youth thing, because this has been pissing me off lately as well, too. Some of the manufacturers, as you may be aware, almost 300 now signatories on the Vape Free Youth website, by the way, Meg.
Yep.
Some manufacturers have already made the commitments to mitigate those youth risks. I'm posing this question out to you, the industry. Have you made that commitment yet? It can only help. Right now, with what we see from the FDA, it can only help, but we all have to align around the commitments like the ones that are posted on the website to get it done. Because if we don't, the FDA is going to make it happen through regulation, and it might be more than what we really need. Clearly, but what they've put in that number 8, they're going after way more than just cartoon characters on bottles. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
So
anything that's got a pretty color on it is going to be...
Absolutely. Spot on. So I encourage you to take care of the things that really need to be done sooner rather than later. Child resistance bottles obviously is something that needs to be addressed. Cartoon labels definitely need to be addressed. And just take the opportunity to push back on the things that are necessary. You know, we know that this product is not intended by any manufacturer to be sold to youth. Clearly, those that are trying to regulate us do not believe that. I think that's clearly been made by every person from the CTP or the FDA that has spoken over the last 6 months. So I highly encourage people to visit Vape Free Youth and commit to those principles. It's a starting point. It's an open door with the FDA, something that we can sit down and talk about the issues and talk about what makes them happy, what makes us, the industry, happy. What do we need to keep? What is that thick line? What is that thick line that's going to keep these products on the market for the millions of smokers that might possibly die from tobacco-related illnesses? So with the Vape Free Youth website, I hope to see a lot of people signing up, a lot of industry, a lot of manufacturers, a lot of associations. And then hopefully we can get to a point where, okay, now we have 5 signatories on here. We represent 50-60% of the distribution of e-liquid. Let's all come together in a room. Let's create a summit somewhere. Let's come together. Let's invite all the advocacy groups. Let's invite SFATA, CASSA, militia, everybody to the table. AMSA, consumers if they want. Let's bring them all to the table. Let's sit down and discuss these issues. as adults, responsibly, let's take what the FDA has given us, and trust me, all you have to do is read number 8 to decrypt what the FDA is doing right here. Let's take what the FDA has given us and let's try to come up with a solution, because all we're saying, Noah, is we're saying, don't regulate us. Don't. Everybody just back off. We have the right to put these cartoon labels. We've got the right to do everything as an industry. That's all we're saying. We're not taking anything to the table with them, Noah.
Right.
That's a big problem.
And the thing about the principles that are up on Vape Free Youth is they were all agreed upon. Those aren't things that the people who created them disagreed on. Those 8 principles or the 10 principles that are up there were all agreed upon. Those are the things that we agree on. So everyone that's already signed up, I challenge someone to go to vapefreeyouth.com and find Vape Free Youth and find someone on that list that they like, because that person has read Vape Free Youth and they agree. Yeah. Anyone can go on Vape Free Youth and find someone that they know.
And the Vape Free Youth is not the solution. It's not the end of all. It's a starting point. There's companies on there that have signed that clearly don't abide by these principles, but they have made the commitment in a timely manner to change.
And it means they're willing to. And if they're willing to, they need to take the opportunity to get together and start doing it.
Yes, absolutely. They need to, in a timely manner. We have 60 days here to show this.
And I'd like to point out, too, with the Vape Free Youth, they do allow advocates to sign up. I signed up for it. I didn't think they were going to add my name to it, but they did. So if you've got a website and you agree with these, sign up for it. Get your name put on there and show that you kind of support this stuff.
Yes, people should go there and encourage. And also as vapors, you should encourage your vendors, your distributors, your e-liquid manufacturers to join it. There is not anybody responsible for Vape Free Youth. There's not one person behind it. There's not a group behind it. It is a team effort from some manufacturers that saw the writing on the wall and wanted to do something about it. Yes, I've been talking about it for a while, but trust me, I'm not the only one. There's other companies out there realizing that this is an extreme issue. And point proven with this document that was dropped by the FDA today, this is exactly what's happening. It's not the end all, but it's a start. And tell me what other group, Meg, since we are on the subject of advocacy, or you know, you can join in, what has any other group done to address this issue?
Nothing. That's
nothing that I've seen.
Because I'm tired of being accused by advocacy groups that, hey, I don't agree with the way that the Vape Free Youth movement was done. Okay, all right, that's fine. What have you done? Propose a solution. Tell me what you've done, and I'll join that fight. I will help you. But don't tell me you disagree. Don't tell me you disagree, but you don't have a fucking solution.
They can nitpick all day. But the issue there is they're nitpicking someone that's doing something while everyone else is doing nothing.
Yeah.
There's something.
I think it's part of that whole mentality that if I sit on my hands, somebody else is going to come along and do it for me. So I can just say I don't agree with it, but that's okay because Dimitri will take care of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Meg. Put some more pressure on my old fat back. Thanks, Meg. I appreciate that. But the truth is that there's some people that maybe stand to lose financially by supporting Vape Free Youth, maybe because they have a financial vested interest in some of these companies that do have these products on the market. I get it. If that's your business plan, that is your business proposal, that's fine. But shut up. Shut up. Don't criticize a movement that is trying to do something better. And I see that Kurt just posted something from Cloud Chasers, which, by the way, me and Kurt have been talking a lot lately, and I have to hand it to the guy. He's doing his best in a niche, the cloud chasing niche, which is very, very difficult. But he's talking about PR. There is no association attached to Vape Free Youth. There is no PR. There is no budget. If you're a multi-million-dollar company out there selling e-liquid, you should know about Vape Free Youth. Hell, you should have people that work for you that specialize in regulatory and government affairs to be able to tell you what the FDA is doing. And if you're a smaller company, just look at what the other companies are doing. I know not everybody can afford those people, but for crying out loud, I think that the multi-million-dollar companies out there that are throwing away $20,000 worth of juice at Vape Meets would afford to have somebody to tell them, hey, guess what? The FDA has an issue with these labels.
If you can afford to be bouncing around all of these vape meets, you can afford to know what's going on in the industry that you're involved with.
Yeah. I get so sick and tired of that. That's a big excuse that I hear a lot over here is, we simply can't afford it. But yet you're coming up with new labeling, you're introducing new products, you're opening up a new bricks and mortar shop. Delay opening up your bricks and mortar shop and put some money into this, into advocacy, into, a lobbyist, something, into some kind of organization.
Even if they're not putting money into an organization, it doesn't cost money to learn.
No, it doesn't.
Knowledge is free.
You can just message me. By the way, they were too busy spending money on testing for diacetyl NAP. That's why they weren't investing in government affairs. That was a joke, by the way. just in case it didn't come out clear. But the truth is, okay, I support everybody that supports advocacy. Do I support them 100%? Absolutely no. But I do support. I would never publicly go out there and bash anybody that's doing advocacy work at whatever level it is. Whether it's one person, whether it's a blogger like whether it's an association, everybody that's passionate and is doing something about this product, doing something about the industry and the community, I support them. But don't criticize somebody or a group of people that are trying to do the right thing when you don't have a solution. If you have a solution, bring it to the table, join forces, come with us. Come with all these manufacturers at Vape Free Youth and give us your solution. Let's work together. Let's work together to address number 8 on the FDA docket. Number 8 is extremely important for everybody here. And unfortunately, even the groups that are out there, the advocacy groups, missed it. They didn't notice it today. I didn't see any advocacy group addressing number 8, which is exactly what the goal of Vape Free Youth is, to address number 8, which we saw coming. Do you agree or you disagree, Em?
I agree with you.
Thank you.
I do.
Because if you disagree,
I definitely
I'm
do.
going to fire you. I'm going to send you over to Vapor Trails TV.
I don't think they'd have me.
Live together, die alone. If we spend all our time bickering about someone who's attempting to create a solution instead of being part of the solution, we've already lost.
But it happens all the time in advocacy, Noah. I mean, I know you're fresh into this. And,
right, I'm brand new.
And you're definitely going to see a lot of stuff in your journey. And I know you have political aspirations as well, too, which is great. I love to see that. But in order to understand politics, you have to look deeper. You have to look at what there lies always an interest behind everything.
Right.
Okay? That doesn't mean that we can't work together. As long as we have that 75% goal of keeping this industry alive and keeping this product, if somebody stands to gain millions from it, more power to them. I don't have nothing against that. If somebody wants to gain notoriety and fame or even just be loved in the community, I don't have no problem with that, as long as you're trying to do something about it. But you have to be able to offer solutions, right? And maybe the Vape Free Youth is not the only solution, but it's a start, because guess what? Nobody else did anything to address this problem. Nobody. No group out there. No group. And if you disagree, or if somebody has something that I haven't seen, please call and let me know. But let's shift it a little bit to the vapors, Megan. We talked about the industry. We raged enough. Let's talk about the vapors. Let me start with you, Noah. How important do you think that the vapors are in this volatile situation that we have now with regulations coming up? How important do you think they are to shift the industry as well, too? I mean, we always see the hand checks. We see the 20-second cloud blowing videos on internet. I post a picture of the new disruptor. I get 150 shares and likes or whatever, and then I post something today, this SFATA announcement for California, which, by the way, SB 140 in California is death of the industry in California. If you have not read that, please read that, and please take action in California. I know that SFATA North and South are working on it as well, but it takes more. It takes more. This is a bad bill, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to pass. So how important do you think that the vapors are to shift that mentality of the industry?
I think we have a perception problem, and I've said this plenty of times on Vape Politics, but I think we have a perception problem, and that is that the vapors as a whole think that the companies and that the groups are going to handle this for them. And I'm not saying that for all vapors, but for a majority, they think that this is already handled. They need to take it into their own hands. Regulation is coming. We have to fight together. All of us, not just the e-liquid manufacturers, not just the companies, not just the advocacy groups. Every single one of us has to stand together.
Meg?
Yep, I agree with Noah completely. I absolutely do. And I would have probably said the exact same thing. I think vapors are pivotal in every decision, whether it be regulation, whether it be labels, testing. If vapors get involved and say, look, we're not going to stand for this, and they come together, they can make a difference. We've proven that over the last 3.5 years that I've been vaping. All it takes is a small group to stand together and get their voices as loud as possible, and you can make a change. But if we're all, whatever, somebody else is going to do it, we're going to be stuck in the same situation. It's going to be a merry-go-round for years.
Meg,
go ahead, Noah.
Meg, how many hand checks do you think hit Facebook throughout all of the vaping community today? Just imagine what would happen if we replaced every hand check in one day, just one day, every hand check with something related to what's going on regulation-wise. Can you imagine the impact that the vapors themselves would have without any group or any e-liquid manufacturer or any company doing it? Just the vapors in one day could push an entire agenda forward. Yeah,
but the problem is I don't know how it is in the States. I know over here in the UK, a lot of it is, nobody listens to me. If I do it, it doesn't matter. You can't... for me over here, trying to get somebody motivated to get involved in the political side of it is really, really difficult. They're just not interested.
Chris Hughes said something to me one time when he came on the show a couple weeks ago. He said, I was waiting for somebody to do something until I realized that I'm somebody.
Yes.
That's the thing that we have to push to the vapors.
We need to get the vapors involved. I saw a quote inside the chat. I don't remember who put it, but a lot of vapors think we're too big to be regulated. What? You think we're big?
Yeah, that's still a line that's going on over here. Is they can't get rid of it.
You think we're big? Come on,
we're nothing compared to something like big tobacco.
You put big tobacco and big pharmaceutical together, we're definitely not big. That's why it's important. That's why I fight and I volunteer my time to help associations form in states, because a state association gets the vapors involved, Meg.
Yep.
Where a trade association does not. It's solely for the vendors themselves. And there's states, like in Massachusetts that I went last week and met with the vendors there, there's only 70 or 80 shops in that state. It's a small state. They definitely don't have the manpower to do something by themselves. They need to bring the vapors in. And how many times, Meg, or you, Noah, how many times has a vapor told you, man, I want to do something to help. I want to get involved. I'm a member of CASSA. I follow the calls to action. I share on Facebook. But what else can I do? Where a state association is the perfect place for them to attach as volunteers and help in their state spread the word about tobacco harm reduction.
Right. I think it was great last week you had Jonathan Beardsley on, and Jonathan's a great guy. Mm-hmm. And you really drove home the point that he is a volunteer. He's not paid by this organization. He is a volunteer, and he volunteers his time to help promote tobacco harm reduction. And that's something that everyone can do. Even if it's an hour a week versus being full-time volunteer work, everybody can get involved.
I'm not saying that this is, again, the solution, but the model of the TSFA has worked in Tennessee. It's been copied in Georgia, gladly copied in Georgia and Florida, and over there with Aaron at Utah, right? And now, just in the last 2 months, Meg, PA, Virginia, Massachusetts, Alabama, all 4 states have contacted me to form their own smoke-free association. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Because what's out there existing does not fit their model. What's out there right now does not get the vapors involved, and what's out there now does not represent the interests of the people in the state. The vendors of the state that pay for that association are the ones that should have the voice at the table, and they should have the option to bring the vapors inside to help them, because there's tons of passionate vapors. Here in Tennessee, I'm prime example. I have 12 volunteers on the TSFA that bust their ass day out and day in to help the association and help spread the word about tobacco harm reduction. And you know what they get? They get a thank you. That's all they get. But they're so willing to do it. Why not utilize those tools? And how important it is to have vapors when you're talking about politics.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know that is a lot of information to take in, but it's good, solid information. And it's something that we really need to adhere to and listen to and learn from. The issue we have right now is that we are broken up into so many little sections within specifically advocacy. We're broken up into so many little segments. And I support it. Demi said it perfectly. I'm not sure if you heard it, but Demi said it perfectly. He supports everyone in advocacy, even if he doesn't agree with them. He supports what they're doing. He supports the cause of fighting for vaping. Because I think we've forgotten something. We did this together. We built this community together. We built this industry together. Not alone, not one person. We did it together. So why on earth can we not fight for it together? This is my challenge to you. Find an outlet. Find something that you can dig deep into, whether it be CASSA, SFATA, VISTA. Find a local chapter in your state, and if there isn't one, start one. But we need to get together, or we are going to lose this industry. Everything we know about vaping will be gone because we could not stand together. Live together, die alone. That's how this industry will go. I'm Noah Richardson, and on behalf of the Vape Politics Radio team, we'll see you next week. Vape Politics Radio, covering calls to action all around the country, breaking industry news, all things FDA, event coverage, and answering your questions here at home and abroad. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at facebook.vapepolitics.com and go over and give our Twitter a follow at twitter.vapepolitics.com.